I now call to order this panel deliberation on the proposed Bangsamoro Civil Service Commission Code, Civil Service Code rather. To begin with, let us start with an invocation to be led by Tad Saad Dalna. Can you please give him a microphone?
وقال ربكم ادعوني استجب لكم آمين يا رب العالمين. ربنا ظلمنا أنفسنا وإن لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكونن من الخاسرين. ربنا اغفر لنا ذنوبنا وإسرافنا في أمرنا وثبت أقدامنا وانصرنا على القوم الكافرين. اللهم ول على المسلمين خيارهم وانزع عنهم شرارهم واجعل ولايتنا في من خافك واتقاك واتبع رضاك يا رب العالمين. اللهم آمنا في أوطاننا وأصلح أئمتنا وولاة أمورنا. اللهم ارفع عنا الغلا والوبا والزلازل والمحن وسوء الفتن ما ظهر منها وما بطن عن بلدنا هذا خاصة وسائر بلاد المسلمين عامة برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم إنا نسألك حب رضاك والجنة. اللهم إنا نسألك الجنة وما قرب إليها من قول وعمل ونعوذ بك من النار وما قرب إليها من قول وعمل. اللهم اجعلها عملنا هذا خالصا لوجهك الكريم ابتغاء لمرضاتك يا رب العالمين. اللهم وفقنا لما تحبه وترضاه. اللهم إنا نسألك التقى والهدى والعفاف والغنى. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار والحمد لله.
May we please rise for the national anthem and the Bangsamoro hymn. You may we please sit down. The Secretariat, please conduct the roll call and determine the existence of a quorum.
Assalamualaikum, members. Let me begin with the Chairperson, MP Attorney Raisa H. Jajuri. Vice Chair, MP Engineer Aida Silongan. Other members, MP Ziaur Rahman Adyong, MP Eddie Ali,
Present.
MP Attorney Suharto Ambuluto, MP Engineer Baintan Ampatuan, MP Dr. Susana, MP Attorney Ana,
Present.
MP Musa Diamla,
Present.
MP Attorney Maisara Latif,
Present. Present.
MP Attorney Jose Lorena, MP Jamil Makaraya, MP Gaddafi Mangudadatu,
Present. Here.
MP Amir Bahar Ismawalil,
Present.
MP Attorney Rasul Y. Mitmug Jr.,
Present.
MP Attorney Ubaida Pakasem, MP Jamila Ramos,
Present.
MP Romeo Saliga, MP Attorney Omar Yasser Sema,
Present.
MP Romeo Sema, MP Attorney Paisalin Tago,
Present.
MP Attorney Nabil Tan,
Present.
MP Adsfar H. Usman. From the ex-officio members, the Speaker, Attorney Ali Pangalian Barindong, Hatimil Hassan, Majority Floor Leader, Attorney Lanang Ali Jr., Minority Floor Leader, MP Attorney Liza Alamia. Mr. Chair, based on the attendance, there are 2 members who are present, and there are 11 present via Zoom, a total of 13 members in attendance out of 24 members.
Out of 24.
24 members.
With 13 overall present, both physically and in Zoom, we declare the existence of the quorum, considering that the composition of this panel is 24 and the rules require only 3% of in attendance. We declare the existence of the quorum. We now proceed to the acknowledgement of resource persons who have gone their way to be present in today's panel discussion on the proposed Bangsamoro Civil Service Code. First, we acknowledge the presence of the governor through his governor of Lanao del Sur, Governor Mamintal Alonto Adyong, through his representative, Ms. Azrifa Mamutok. Thank you. The governor of Sulu, represented by Mr. Jaini Samma. However, there seems to be a problem with his access to the Zoom because of the weather condition, and he requested the weather condition in Sulu, and he requested to join via phone patch. So may we test if if Mr. Jalni Samma can hear us right now? Naka-on na yung phone niya. Naka-on na. Mr. Jalni Samma, can you hear us? Okay, we will get back to you later. The Governor of Basilan, Governor Jim Saliman, represented by Miss Maria Emily A. Trumata. Hindi daw siya maka-access. Siya na yan. Miss Miss Emily Trumata, hindi daw maka-access pa sa Zoom. Maybe tomorrow she can join us. Governor Ismail Mangsali, his representative is Mr. Abunagdir Jauhari, the provincial HRMO. He also requested to join via phone patch. May we test the audio? Mr. Jauhari, can you hear us? Please say present if you can hear us. Naririnig tayo? Naririnig niya tayo? Okay. Dapat may microphone dyan sa'yo para marinig kagad kung anong... okay. Cannot be reached na ngayon. Okay, we will proceed. The Governor of Maguindanao by Mariam S. Mangudadato, the Honorable Mangudadato, represented by Engineer Nulfarid S. Ampatuan. Can you hear us? May we check if he's still in the Zoom? Engineer Ampatuan, can you hear us? Wala? Five-minute suspension? 1 minute suspension para ma-check yung yung mga naka-phone patch kasi we're about to make a presentation.
Hello, sir. Hello, sir. Can you...
So we can coordinate properly kung marinig talaga nila. Kasi it will be useless kung magpe-present hindi nila marinig.
Naka-connect na po sa mic, sir.
1 minute suspension lang, colleague. Naririnig nila tayo.
Hello, sir. Can you... Sir, sama.
Kapit-kapit kayo.
With your permission, colleagues, I would like to hear the voice of those on phone patch muna ha. Engineer Nur Farid, marinig mo kami? Okay lang. Okay lang. Marinig. Naririnig daw nila tayo. Dapat may confirmation yan ha. Mamaya, this is supposed to be a consultation ha. Session resume.
Mic check, hello.
Per the secretariat, they told me that those on phone patch can hear us. So I would now proceed to call on the Office of the Solicitor General to make the presentation. TWG muna. Opening statement again. Yeah, Hindi mo yung opening statement ka na kahapon? Sige. Okay. We have agreed here, colleagues, to hear the before the presentation by the by attorney ano siya Solgen. Yeah, from the before we hear the presentation, see the presentation of the technical working group on the Bangsamoro Civil Service Code, we will hear again the voice of Minister Aida Silongan. Yeah. I will jump over my part na opening statement. No. I'm just a representative of the chairperson. I-proceed na lang natin sa opening message of the vice chair of the panel and head of the cabinet committee on the Bangsamoro Civil Service Code, MP Engineer Aida Silongan.
Auzubillahi minasyaitonirrajim.
Naka-on naman yata kanina yun, ma'am.
To our honorable chair of this panel, Attorney Raisa H. Jadzuri, temporarily presiding officer, Attorney Omar Yasir Sema, my distinguished colleagues in the parliament who are physically and virtually present, our invited various national and regional agencies, the panel secretariat, co-workers in the Bangsamoro government, friends, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and good morning. As a backgrounder, the Cabinet Committee and its technical working group, composed of 3 lawyers, 2 policy researchers, and a technical consultant, have worked drafting this Cabinet Bill number 59 for more than a year. Series of public consultations with various stakeholders at the provincial level and dialogues with experts, including the Civil Service Commission, were held to solicit more views, comments, and opinions on the draft bill. Prior to filing of this bill, the committee and the technical working group have reviewed the parameters set by the Bangsamoro Organic Law, as well as the existing laws and issuances such as RA 6713 or the Code of Conduct and Ethical Standards for Public Officials and Employees, the Administrative Code of the Philippines, Book 5 of EO 292, the Ora-Ora, the RACs, and other issuances. These relevant civil service laws and issuances have become a legal framework in crafting our own Bangsamoro Civil Service Code of 2020, which it is hoped will pave the way for the professionalization and institutionalization of the whole bureaucracy of the Bangsamoro government while addressing the legitimate needs of our people. In response to the request of some panel members for the TWG to discuss the framework and the salient points of this bill, as well as the proposed revisions being forwarded by the committee as a result of our consultation with the CSC commissioners in Manila, may I request the Honorable Chair to recognize the presence of our Vice Chair of the Committee on Civil Service Code, Attorney Shia Ilaiha Dumama Alba, and the members of the TWG, Attorney Socarno Abbas, the Deputy of the Ministry of MTIT now, and Attorney Maimuna Ampuan, and Dato Abdilwin Sangkula. With the permission of the Chair, Attorney Ampuan will be presenting the salient features of the Cabinet Bill number 59. Sukran. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikum salam. Before we allow Attorney Ampuan to make the presentation, may I now recognize the presence of the members of the technical working group chaired by the Attorney General, Attorney Shia Elijah Dumama Alba, at the members, Attorney Socarno Abbas, the Deputy Minister at the Ministry of Trade, Investment and Tourism. Of course, Attorney Ampuan, and our colleague, that's Sangkula. Di ba deputy? Deputy pa siya. Hindi ka pa na-appoint? Tagal. Of course, hindi ko makita dito si To Abbas. I heard she is coming. Now, with your permission, colleagues, we will allow now the presentation by the technical working group of the salient features of the proposed Bangsamoro Civil Service Code. And then later, yung mga resource persons, and then we will have a short open forum, which we will just note all observations, walang argument, walang exchange of views. We will just we can exchange views on the draft. We will just take note. It will be part of the records, and there will be no resolution on those observations. It will be deliberated by the mother committee, the Committee on Rules. So the Attorney Maimuna Ampatuan, you may now.
MP Omar.
Sorry.
MP Omar.
Yes, MP Nabiltan.
Pwedeng mag-clarify lang kasi kami, hindi naman ako mismo, hindi naman ako member ng rules. The procedure or the process seems to be too constricted na walang ganan. And then pupunta tayo sa may may time inahabol yung pwede bang to allow a certain leeways to those who are not members of the rules na may konting exchange, hindi yung ino-note lang parang walang nangyari, pag ino-note lang parang walang nangyari. So parang napipil ko useless kaming mga panel dito. Thank you.
I think hindi man ho siguro useless kung ino-note yung observations nyo, Attorney MP Nabiltan. It will be part of the record. Wala lang resolution. walang resolution on any other matter. It will be part of the records. If there will be motions, and if in the interest of course of due process, you can reduce your observations into position papers. Yan una, on record ho siya during the process. Second, you can reduce it into writing to become a position paper, and it will continue to be part of the records. Hindi ho madi-disregard siya.
MP Omar,
Yes, sir.
naintindihan ko po yun, Mr. Presiding Chair. Kaya lang, kailangan may konting extra kasi kung isusulat ko lang, ako lang nag-iisip noon. I mean, mas maganda makuha din yung sense kung anong kwan. Hindi lang through, we can always back that up with the written kwan. Pero yung mga preliminaries or clarificatory or a little exchange, para naman parang may halaga yung pagkaka-panel member dito. Tingin ko parang antayin na lang sa plenary kasi ganon din naman mangyayari. I'm sorry but kahapon ko pa ito kinikimkim eh. Salamat lang.
Anyway, if that is the case, kung gusto niyong masagot yung query niyo, we will allow the technical working group to answer. Hindi man ho sinasabi, kaya nga sinasabi ho natin is wala lang resolution, but it will be part of the record. All queries, of course, will be heard and answered by the members of the technical working group.
Salamat, boss. Kinig na lang. Sige, salamat. Salamat, boss Omar.
Sige, sir. Now, is there any other concern? We will now allow MP Maimona.
Chair, Sir Chair.
Yes,
Sorry,
MP Rasul.
nasa phone lang ako, medyo mahina data eh. Pag sinubmit mo ba yung query mo, makatanggap ka ng sagot? Kasi yung experience natin sa admin code, pag pinadala mo yung query mo, wala namang formal na sagot na bumabalik.
Yeah, it's the same kasi during the admin code where
Yun nga po, sir.
Yeah.
Sorry, Sir Chair. Yun nga po yung experience natin with the admin code. Madami akong kilala nagpadala ng kanilang notes, documents, pero walang sagot. So parang may I love you, walang sagot, walang I love you back.
Busted.
Yun nga po. Yun lang concern ko, Sir Chair, pero depende na sa rules ng panel kasi the same naman. Yun lang nire-raise ko.
Improve lang para masaya naman. Sagutin. Para hindi na sundan yung weak points ng admin code.
Anyway, I think the process in the administrative code work well.
And Mr. Presiding.
Yes, MP Tago. Ano yun? Yung isa, yung sasagutin? MP
Mr.
Tago.
Presiding, baka hindi ko yata sa guidance na... Yes, thank you very much. Assalamualaikum. Presiding Omar. Baka hindi ko sa guidance na sinabi ni Madam Chair or Minister Reza Diadjuri, ang panel members makikinig lang. Tapos, pag nagsalita yung mga resource persons, for clarification lang, walang katiyakan na, walang sagot, hindi sagutin yung mga clarification. Yung mga concerns natin, as happens in the admin code, iti-take note lang doon sa panel.
Naputol?
I-take note lang yung mga concerns natin. So, experience natin po, i-take note lang yung mga concerns natin yung mga concerns natin, nasabi natin. Hindi yung sagutin in front of.
Mr. Chair.
Yun lang.
Yeah,
yun lang
I think...
So, para ganun ang sinasabi ni binabiltan na parang makikinig lang ba tayo dito sa panel meeting. Yun lang.
That's why. The point here is, we will note, hindi man sinabi natin na hindi sasagutin yung mga queries. Pero what we are trying to avoid here is a debate on any matter. Kung para hindi masayang ang oras, ang kwan natin is, we will allow them to present. If there will be queries, it will be answered to the best of their abilities. And of course, like the deliberation on the admin code, all notes, all concerns, all observations, if will be recorded, it will form part of the records of the deliberations. If it will be reduced into position papers, and it will be part of the panel report to the Committee on Rules. Hindi man ho ibig sabihin nasasayang yung sabihin nyo. There are stages here where everyone can participate. Even in the deliberations of the Committee on Rules, even a non-member can be present there, state his views. Although hindi lang siya makasali sa voting ng Committee on Rules.
Mr.
Yun ho
Chair.
yun. May stages where everyone can participate, deliberate, but yung extent lang ng right to vote, yun lang ho talaga yung wala. So anyway, para
Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair.
yes, MP Mawalil.
Mr. Chair, additional query lang. So, mag-accept po tayo ng position paper. Pero however, Mr. Chair, baka pwedeng mag-request sana ng parang may focal person dito sa panel na to on the position papers ng mga MPs. Because as I observed in the previous panel for administrative code, I think yung policy was that prioritize yung mga non-MPs na mga submission na position papers dahil nga member naman ng panel yung mga MPs, member ng rules. So if that's the case, Mr. Chair, na medyo kwan tayo sa discussion and debate, baka pwedeng may dedicated na secretariat for the position papers, separate na secretariat for the position papers ng mga MPs dito sa panel. Para lang ma-treat natin, para ma-distinguish natin yung position papers ng mga non-MPs doon sa mga MPs. Thank you.
MP Mawalil, you can reduce that into a motion. Para ma-settle na yan. You can reduce that into a motion, so that will be part of the proceedings.
Mr. Chair, I move that a separate secretariat or focal person for the papers of the members of parliament will be constituted.
There is a motion here for the creation of a separate secretariat to collate the position papers of the members of the panel, and of course ito extend na lang natin sa other members of the parliament so that they can also participate. There is a motion here for the creation of a separate secretariat that will collate the position papers of all members of parliament with respect to the proposed Bangsamoro Civil Service Code. It's been seconded, and the same is hereby approved. So we will now allow, meron na ha, may another stage na ha for collation of all position papers with respect to the Civil Service Code. Now we will now allow Attorney Ampuan to make the presentation. Ilang minutes yan? These are only 29 slides. So this will take a short time lang. So Attorney Ampuan, you may now proceed.
Thank you po. Hello. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning po sa lahat, to our MPs and our guests for today's consultation. Attorney Maimona Ampuan po, a member of the... Naririnig po ba ako? Yung mic? Is this okay? Hello?
Louder.
Hello?
Can you make
Hello?
it louder?
Hello? Hello?
That's
Naririnig. Better
better.
po?
Yes, yes.
Thank you po. So I am Attorney Maimona Ampuan po. I am a member of the technical working group for the Bangsamoro Civil Service Code. So alam po ng technical working group that this consultation po really is mainly for gathering position papers, suggestions and comments. But we see, hello. So but we see na it would be better for us to have this small presentation just for leveling off po. So, next slide po, please. And next pa po. And the next pa po. So, the Bangsamoro government has been given the power by the BOL to the authority over the civil service. Excuse me, sa civil service. However, the same law, and the same law has given the Bangsamoro Transition Authority the authority to enact the Bangsamoro Civil Service Code, but with the limitation that it should be subject to the constitutional mandate of the Civil Service Commission. Next slide. Under the Philippine Constitution, particularly Article 9, Section 1, it says there that the civil service shall be administered by the Civil Service Commission, and that this civil service embraces all branches, subdivisions, instrumentalities, and agencies of the government, and that the Civil Service Commission is the central personal agency of the government. Next slide po. So, I am presenting po pala the limitations that the technical working group has faced in the drafting of the Civil Service Code, which is provided under the BOL as well as the Constitution. So, being that the Civil Service Commission is a constitutional body, it is the central personal government agency of the Philippines, limited po, the civil service, the BARM, the Regional Civil Service Field Office po, as provided in RA 11054, is established pa din by the Civil Service Commission. So even if the Bangsamoro government has been given the authority, the power to enact civil service laws, that civil service laws should still be in accordance with existing national laws. And it must not be in conflict with the Constitution, national laws, and as well as existing national civil service laws, rules, and regulations. So, sa pag-draft po talaga ng Bangsamoro Civil Service Code, there is little room for us dahil nga we have to abide by this provision under RA 11054. So we must comply, we must not be in conflict with the Constitution, national laws, as well as yung mga existing na mga rules and regulations ng National Civil Service Commission. Not only that, but on the third paragraph, we are limited as well to 5 areas lang, 5 scopes. So that is the conduct of civil servants, qualifications for non-elective positions, the adoption of the merit and fitness system, protection for civil service eligibles, as well as the disciplinary authority ng Bangsamoro government over its own officials and employees. So, yun po actually yung limitation, restrictions nung pagdadraft na ng Bangsamoro Civil Service Code. So, sa Constitution, being that the Civil Service Commission is a constitutional body,
The Bangsamoro
na
Organic
siya yung central personal agency ng Philippine government, we cannot really be in contravention to any civil service laws or rules na i-issue nila. Furthermore, limited lang din po tayo dun sa 5 coverage na binigay po sa atin ng BOL. So sa next slide please. Being that we in consideration dun sa mga limitations na yon, ginather namin yung mga relevant laws, civil service rules and regulations that were issued ng national, and eto na po yun. Para po hindi po siya, this is actually the sources of the Bangsamoro Civil Service Code para po hindi po tayo kumontra sa national na issuances. So dahil we are limited to 5 coverages po, the technical working group opted that each coverage be a book under the Civil Service Code. So the first one is the conduct of civil servants, sa qualification for non-elective position, and then the adoption of the merit and fitness system, which we've incorporated na po dun sa book 2 on the qualification for non-elective position. And then the next book in the Bangsamoro Civil Service Code is the protection of civil service eligibles. And the last book is on the disciplinary authority ng Bangsamoro government on its own officials and employees. So these are the reference po natin. Being that maliit lang po talaga yung room natin for any maliit lang yung room natin for improvements. So nilagay po namin yung mga pwedeng mga issues that we think hindi naman po nakaka-contradict doon sa limitations and restrictions natin. And these are the issues na at the next presentation is the issues po, issues and highlights po that is under that is incorporated po sa Bangsamoro Civil Service Code. The first one is on localization of recruitment and placement of employees. So that is an Article 10 that the recruitment and selection of our employees, there would be preference on residents of our region for regional employment or for the province for provincial employment. Next slide po. On the second issue on special examination for IPs in BARM po, we recognize po that we cannot really we can only ask sa National Civil Service Commission na magkaroon ng special examination for this. But because of the policy that the Bangsamoro government has on the promotion of inclusivity for Moro and non-Moro indigenous peoples, we put a provision that the administration of special civil service examination for them may be discussed at the level of the intergovernmental relations body po. The next slide po. On the third issue, translation of civil service forms to Arabic, sa appointment form po ito and oath of office. So we've inserted, this is actually a provision under a civil service circular, a national ora, yes po. So we've inserted there, naka-bold, it may be translated in Arabic subject to the approval of the Civil Service Commission po. Next issue. Yes po, we've already this was part of our dialogue po kasi talking points namin. This translation to Arabic is one of the talking points that we had during the dialogue with the National Civil Service Commission, and they've already agreed to this. For the next issue po, on orientation of newly hired within the probationary period, we made it mandatory for a general orientation lang po for newly hired. Next issue, sa publication po of vacancies, the publication shall be posted in 3 conspicuous places for a period of at least 10 calendar days. This is on the letter, based on the letter that was sent to the MBHTE by the National Civil Service Commission, to the BARM, that we clarifying that the BARM is considered as a national government agency po. So that's why it is 10 days yung calendar days yung publication and posting. Sa vacancies po. Next slide po. On Madaris teachers eligibility and equivalency, this is in preparation for the institutionalization of Madaris education. Article 75 actually is derived from the BOL. In case of Madaris teachers, the Civil Service Commission shall promulgate rules and regulations to set the standards for their qualifications, appointments, and promotions based on the recommendation of the Bangsamoro government. This is a provision under the BOL po. And for equivalency, in preparation nga din po doon, we've included sa education yung the last sentence. This includes Madaris education as may be defined in the Bangsamoro Education Code. Dahil po yung Civil Service Code was the first code to be filed. Wala pa po kasi yung Bangsamoro Education Code. So nilagay po namin yung sentence na yan dyan. Next slide po. Sa recognition of K-12 graduates naman po, again, this was also one of the talking points that we had with the National Civil Service Commission na nag-okay po sila kasi they also had a resolution when we talked to them last 2019. Sabi nila na there is a coming resolution po na i-issue din naman ang national on the recognition of K-12. So nilagay na din po namin dyan. Next slide po. Sa issue on CES or requirement for third level eligibility, again, this was a talking point din po when we went to the National Civil Service Commission. Tinanong po namin if kailangan ba ng career executive service eligibility for our third level positions in BARM. And the chairperson herself said na hindi na po kailangan ng career executive service eligibility because we are not, the positions are not presidential appointees. And there is a recognition then that the Bangsamoro government has the power to create its own positions. So yun po. Next slide, please. Sa composition naman po of Committee on Awards, this is still part of the ORA po, but ang nilagay lang po namin dito is that the positions na ang composition would be composed by by our senior deputy chief minister as chair. Yun po yung in-insert namin dito na provision sa provision na to, that it would be composed of the Bangsamoro Mufti, representative holding a position of responsibility from an accredited non-government organization, and 2 representatives from organizations of Bangsamoro government employees, 1 each from the second and first level positions to be appointed by the chief minister from the nominees of their respective boards. So ang composition po yung nilagay po namin dito. Next slide po on the next issue. on the applicability of nepotism, actually wala po, this provision po is actually nasa ora-ora na din po. And wala po kaming ginalaw dito except for yung sa head or chief of the bureau po na sa Article 180. Next slide. Next slide pa din. That is still... Oh, it stopped. Konti na lang. Slide 20 po. Yan po. So on the jurisdiction naman po of disciplinary actions, in-insert po namin yung provision na to that the Office of the Chief Minister shall have primary jurisdiction over administrative cases or matters filed or brought before it by any person against any officials or employees of the different offices, agencies, commissions, or bureaus under it. It shall also have the same jurisdiction over deputy chief ministers, and Bangsamoro Director General of the different ministries, as well as the heads of the GOCCs of the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region. The Attorney General's office shall hear and try administrative cases falling under the jurisdiction of the OCM. Thereafter, it shall submit its findings and recommendation to the Chief Minister for final action. Next slide po. On jurisdiction, this one is the jurisdiction of the different ministries and GOCCs. So all ministries and GOCCs with original charter shall have jurisdiction over administrative cases or matters filed or brought before it by any person against any of their respective officials or employees, except those officials mentioned in the immediately preceding section. That was yung previous na article. Next slide po. Ito naman pong on taking solemn oath. This is the taking of solemn oath parang in line with the administrative code na an oath is to be undertaken for moral governance. Parang ito din po yung sa solemn oath for the solemn oath po na that solemn oath po when it comes to the disciplinary action po, sorry. So I will read po the article 236 on solemn oath. As used in this book, a solemn oath shall be understood to mean a moral asseveration in accordance with a person's religious or cultural belief in the nature of an oath in the presence of a duly authorized person in connection with a pending case to the effects that all statements or allegations made in relation thereto by the parties and or their witnesses are true and correct to their personal knowledge. It is separate and distinct from the usual oath or subscription made before a notary public or person authorized to administer oath. Article 237 when required. So this is kasi sa chapter, the book on disciplinary action. So when required, the proper disciplining authority at any stage of the proceeding may require the parties to take a solemn oath if, in his or her sound discretion, such taking may facilitate or help in ascertaining the truth in relation to a case pending before him or her. It shall not be mandatory for him or her to require such solemn oath, and the same shall not be conclusive proof as to the accuracy of the testimony or statement given. Next slide po. On the manner of taking solemn oath, on whom may administer, it is the Bangsamoro Mufti or those who he may duly authorize in writing may administer the taking of a solemn oath in cases of Muslims, and as to non-Muslims or non-Moro indigenous people, the same shall be administered by the hearing officer. Article 239, the manner of taking. Before an oath is taken, the administering officer shall see to it that the concerned person fully understands the consequences of the oath and that the same is voluntary on his or her part. The swearing must be in the language or dialect known to the person taking an oath. He or she shall be given a reasonable period of time to reflect upon the consequences of taking such oath. Next slide, still on the solemn oath, certification. The administering officer shall issue the necessary certification under his or her official seal and signature, specifying whether the concerned person actually took or refused to take the solemn oath, as well as the place and date of its taking. His or her observations must also be indicated therein. The certification shall form part of the record of the case. So again, this solemn oath po is for the disciplinary action po in case, yes po. Next slide po. Ito naman pong sa moratorium on eligibility requirement for yung moratorium, mamaya ko na lang po explain kasi meron po kasing new resolution issued by the civil service on this. So for next pa po. Ito pong sa transitory provision, the placement process during the transition period. Babasahin ko po muna. The institution of a placement process for hiring of personnel during transition period, including the constitution of the interim Bangsamoro placement and selection boards, shall be based on the approved transition plan. Bali, there was already an issued a past resolution, BTA resolution number 90, which adopted and approved the interim composition of the RSPB. That was adopted October 28, 2020 po. Balik po tayo doon sa moratorium, please. Yan po. Bale, the Civil Service Code, this bill, this proposed bill was filed 2019 pa po. Late 2019. Pero early 2019 po, we had a dialogue with the National Civil Service Commission on the moratorium for the Mujahideen. They did not like the term moratorium and said that it should be temporary appointments, suspending po yung provision under the civil service, the ora-ora on the availability kapag may available civil service eligibles. So ito pong bill was filed 2019 po. When we went to the National Civil Service Commission, they said that they would issue po pala ng resolution on the Mujahideen. And this bill and yung mga kopya na meron po kayo ngayon was filed 2019 pa po, and the resolution that the National Civil Service Commission said that they would issue on this na-released po noong September 24, 2020 na among others, isa po ito sa mga nakalagay doon sa resolution na yon. Na to, may kopya ba tayo? Sa page 8 ata ng resolution on the proposed language in the Bangsamoro Civil Service Code. Hindi ko mahanap yung reso. Anyways po, meron na pong resolution approving the temporary appointments for Mujahideen po. The technical working group after next page. The resolution was dated August 28, but it was released September 24, 2020. So after regarding the Mujahideen, basahin ko lang po yung part ng resolution ng National Civil Service Commission saying that the commission recognizes the intent ma-present. Sige po. Yes po. Pero babasahin ko po muna yung certain that provision po. Provision sa resolution ng National Civil Service Commission which says that the Commission recognizes the intent to include a special provision for Mujahideen in the Bangsamoro Civil Service Code as a means for rehabilitation and development of the Bangsamoro government, enunciated in under Section 1, Article 14 of RA number 11054. Anong Idawan mo daw, Sir Dad. So, parang ginaano. Ayun, yan. Yan na yung green. Babasahin ko din po part of the resolution saying that we believe that the 1-year limitation of a temporary appointment should be followed. The rules pertaining to the limitation on renewal, however, may be relaxed. Hence, in light of the proposal to have a 3-year period for the effectivity of the temporary appointment, the Commission allows instead a renewal of 3 times in the absence of a qualified eligible who is available. The Commission recognizes that allowing this proposed Bangsamoro Civil Service Code provision with some adjustments would go a long way towards achieving the decommissioning of the MILF military force, which would invariably contribute to the attainment of lasting peace in the region. So after po naming nakakuha po ng copy on this resolution, the technical working group met, and then we amended that special provision on temporary appointment po, just so it would reflect the resolution of the National Civil Service Commission. Ang proposed new article on this, the proposed new wordings for this provision, if I will read po pero wala po sa presentation. The special provisions for Mujahideen may be hired as a temporary appointee for the first level position, salary grade 9 and below, of the Bangsamoro government in the absence of fellow Mujahideen applicants who are civil service eligible, provided that not more than 30% of the total number of entry-level plantilla positions of the Bangsamoro government shall be allocated to them. The appointments under this provision shall be valid for 12 months, renewable for 3 times. However, if the appointee has possessed the required eligibility within the period, he shall be qualified for permanent appointment to said position subject to performance appraisal and without prejudice to the discretion of the appointing authority. During the transition period, it shall be the responsibility of the central committees of the Moro Islamic Liberation Front, MILF, and the Moro National Liberation Front, MNLF, to determine the Mujahideen in the roster of their organic members who shall be considered for hiring under this provision. The hiring should be within the transition period. And that would be all po. So those are the salient features of the Bangsamoro Civil Service Code. Sukran wassalam.
Are you done, Attorney Ampuan? So what is in the next one? The resource persons, may I check kung nandyan pa sila? Miss Arifa Mamutok, nandyan ka pa? There will be a discussion later after the resource persons have presented, both on the draft and on the presentation of the resource persons.
Sir Chair. Sir
Yes.
Chair. Sir Chair, we're raising some questions sa chat group. Hindi naman siya maka-distract sa anong tawag nito, sa ongoing panel. Ang question lang po, sir, yung rules lang ba yung may sagot o every one of the panel can have an answer from the COMSEC?
Pakiulit.
Sir Chair, we raised some questions sa chat group. Ang query ko is, yung rules committee members lang ba yung may sagot or everybody can be answered by the COMSEC?
You're talking about the questions you have raised.
Yes, Sir Chair.
In the chat group.
So that's what it won't bother yung sa panel, so everybody can listen to the panel.
Yeah. I think the questions you are encoding in the chat group can be best answered when the chair of the panel is. I mean, your query can be best answered by the chair of the panel when she arrives. We will just take note of the questions. Babasahin natin to mamaya yung mga questions na pinost nyo sa chat group, and then it will be formally written in a piece of paper submitted to the chair later for his,
Yes.
for his or her comment. No?
Thank you po, Sir Chair. Yung experience ko lang kasi yung last time was may mga queries, in fact may mga motions, then yun nga, walang nabalik sa atin na answers. So sana po this time hindi po ganun. Yun lang po, Sir Chair. Thank you po.
Best, I think the chair, Attorney Raisa Jajuri, is reasonable enough to answer your query later. Now, ang task ko ngayon is to allow the resource persons who are present to make any presentation available. At may I hear from Miss Asrifa Mamutok? Are you still around?
Hello? Yes, sir. Yeah. I'm still around po.
Yeah, thank you.
Opo.
Can you open your video now so we will see your beautiful face?
Yes, sir. Hi po.
You have any presentation ready for today or ano?
Sir, yun sana po yung hihilingin namin na we will submit our proposition sa Thursday. Ongoing pa po yung pag-draft ng Office of the Governor.
Yeah. So you are asking for more time?
Yes po. By within this week po, we can submit. Pinaka-late na po sa Thursday.
Thursday. Today is Tuesday. You still have 2 days to.
Yes po. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So
to finish
on that date, you will still be presenting or isasubmit nyo na lang?
Isasubmit na lang po namin, sir.
Yeah. Take note, Secretariat, wala na presentation coming from the Office of the Governor sa Lanao del Sur. It will just be a submission. So, have you seen the presentation of the technical working group? If you have any comments, you can state them right now, and we can even give you time na during your submission you can make a comment. Isama niya dun sa pag-submit nyo.
Nizar, miyado. Era na kaban kapitulo eh. Oo.
Na. You can na. I-off mo
Hello,
na lang yung...
Sir, pasensya po.
Yeah,
Hello, sir. Nawawala po yung internet namin. Na-disrupt
Off mo
po.
na lang yung video para hindi ka
Hindi,
mahirapan.
Opo,
hindi
in-off
malakas
ko
ang
na
ano.
po. Hindi, in-off ko na po, sir, para mas hindi po malakas kumain ng net. Oh, napuputol-putol po, sir.
Yeah.
Hello?
Now,
Yes
yeah.
po.
You hear me now? Marinig
Yes, sir.
mo?
Yes, sir.
Tinanong kita
Yes, sir.
kanina kung nakita mo yung presentation ng technical working group. Would you like to
Yes,
comment?
sir.
Or would you like to submit na lang yung comment mo doon sa presentation, including doon sa comment ng province of position paper ng province of Lanao del Sur?
Yes, sir. Isahin na lang po namin ang aming comments, our suggestions.
Doon sa presentation ng technical working group, ha?
Yes, sir. Opo, yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Now we go to the representative of Governor Abdu Sakurtan, Mr. Jalni Samma. Are you still around, sir? Naka-phone patch siya. Naririnig niya tayo? Hindi natin siya marinig. You call him back, sabi pa, magtawag lang ulit. Doon ako muna sa available, ha? We acknowledge the presence of MPZ Adyong, who is now in the Zoom also. Also MP Rasul Mitmog, Rasul Ismael. Diba? Nandyan siya. Anyway, we now call on Miss Maria Emily A. Tromata. Ito City Auditor or City Accounting Officer? City, no. Miss Emily A. Tromata, representative of Governor Jim Saliman. Are you still around, ma'am? Wala. She's out already. Dito na sa baba. We now call on the representative of the Honorable Governor by Mariam S. Manguda Dato, Engineer Nul Farid Ampatuan.
Ano yung defensive driving? Kailangan ba tayo mag-aral ng karate?
Yeah. Engineer Ampatuan. We will now allow we will now allow you to make a presentation if you have any presentation with respect to the the Bangsamoro Civil Service Code.
Yes, sir. Sir, for our position paper, sir, ihahatid po ng HR po namin tomorrow, just po sa inyo po, sir. So do with our comments with the presentation of the TWG.
Also with the comment, huh?
Apo, sir.
Okay. So you will not have any presentation today?
Yes, sir.
Will submit their presentation, their position paper tomorrow, together with their comments on the presentation of the technical work. So it seems wala now. Thank you, Engineer Ampatuan. We will not hold you long na. Unless you would, we would like you to participate pa. Baka may marinig kayo ng mga comments from the MPs which you would like to incorporate in your position paper. Mas mabuti kung nandito pa kayo, ha?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
Yes, Engineer Ampatuan, MP Ampatuan.
Yeah, maybe to make use of the time of our resource person, maybe we can just get some initial impression about the presentation so that we could feel what is the sense of the LGUs as far as the presentation is concerned. Thank you.
We can allow that. That's why hindi ho natin sila pinapaalis na lang muna. Maybe we can allow them to hear you or what, or baka nga meron silang gustong sabihin, ihabol mamaya or what. So, Miss Asripa Mamutok, you are given time to make an impression. If you have any impressions on the presentation, you can state now. Also, Engineer Ampatuan, you are also given time to state any impression on the presentation by the technical working group. Any comment from the resource persons from the local government units? Wala na. Kung wala na, we will now open the forum. Deliberation na tayo. Coming from the members of the panel. Secretariat, please take note of what is being stated here, ha, lahat. Or gusto nyo mag-break muna para ma-compose nyo yung mga observations nyo?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, MP Baintan.
Dalawa lang yung ano natin, RPs. What about the other areas?
Di daw sila
Basilan,
MP Baintan.
Tawi-Tawi. Yeah.
MP Baintan, we are calling them back. They were here a while ago via phone patch. Pero naputol ho yung linya nila.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, will I be recognized? Mr. Chair.
Jam, you're
Yes,
recognized.
Mr. Chair, before we hold our break, may we request for the presentation earlier made regarding the salient points on the Bangsamoro Civil Service Code draft that it be emailed to us.
Right now. Yeah, so that para mabasa nyo in ano.
Yes, so that that could serve as our reference in providing our comments and observations.
This
Thank you,
email
Mr. Chair.
to those present in the Zoom. And then later this afternoon to all members of the committee and rules na lang. So, 5-minute break.
Mr. Chair, meron lang akong tanong, Mr. Chair.
Yes, MP Zia.
Yes, Mr. Chair, this is going to be a series of consultation pa naman, no?
Yes.
After this, meron
pang sunod. This afternoon meron pa rin.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair.
So, 5-minute break. exclusive now for the members of the panel and the committee on the Cabinet Committee on Bangsamoro Civil Service Code. So Ms. Asrifa Mamutok and Engineer Ampatuan, we will not hold you long. We will now excuse you. We will be expecting your position papers by Thursday, as you have stated here in these deliberations. Thank you ho sa pag-attend ninyo. And please extend our gratitude to your principals, Governor Adyong and Governor Manguda Dato. Maraming salamat po.
Sir, maraming salamat din po. Thank you.
Yeah, we cannot hear Miss Asrifa. He's trying to say something.
Sir, maraming salamat po. We will be submitting by Thursday po our position paper. Maraming salamat po.
Sabi kay Governor, salamat ha.
Yes, sir. Yes po. Yes, sir.
Engineer Ampatuan, you are now excused. Please extend our gratitude to the Governor for sending you here as representative. Salamat po. So colleagues, we will now open the floor for deliberations. Yeah, there are questions already noted here, stated in the chat group. We have printed them before accommodating your personal personal clarifications or questions. Basahin ko na lang muna yung mga nasabi sa chat group ha. These are all addressed to the technical working group, the cabinet committee and the technical working group, and it will be addressed to the chair of the cabinet committee, MP Silongan. She may choose though to assign the members of the cabinet, the technical working group, to answer in her behalf the questions you have raised. From MP Rasmitmug, you were saying that there is a Supreme Court jurisprudence on CESO appointments ba ito in the third level? Yeah, this is a question. So who Ma'am Aida.
Okay, this will be answered by Attorney Socarno Abbas, Deputy Minister of the Ministry of Trade, Industries, and Tourism.
Bigyan niyo ng isa pang mic si MP Rasmitmug, are you still there?
Yes, sir, Chair.
Your question was about the CESO. MP Aida Silongan has assigned the Deputy Minister, Attorney Suharto Ambuludto, to answer your question. Suharto Abbas. Sukarno Abbas to answer your question.
Ay, nako.
You can.
May I proceed?
You may proceed now, Deputy Minister.
Good morning, Your Honors. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Now, as to the issue as to whether CESO eligibility is required for third level positions, when we had a face-to-face dialogue, Civil Service National Office, in the presence of the chairman of the Civil Service, together with other commissioners and the directors, and we raised that issue as to whether the CESO or other third level eligibility are required for positions in the BARM for third level. And the chairman herself categorically answered that since the position in the BARM is not a presidential appointment, then CESO eligibility is not required. That statement was heard by the different attendees from the group of the chairman, committee chairman Aida Silungan, MP Aida Silungan, and the representatives and the TWG.
So, MP Rasmit Mog, narinig mo yun?
Yes po. I would like to ask if we were able to reduce that in writing kasi it's a policy decision, Sir Chair. Two things. One po, we are choosing not to kasi we have the capacity to choose na pwede at par with national. Pero choice po natin na yan. So yun lang po yung gusto ko malaman first. Yan yung choice natin na ayaw natin. Then second is kung talagang CSC opinion, yun nga po, sana may documented writing tayo kasi may ongoing case. Ang sabi naman dun sa Court of Appeals decision na since third level siya, mandatory for national regardless kung ang regional governor or ang president ang mag-appoint. So may pending po sa, hindi pending, actually may Supreme Court decision na, so hindi ko sure kung aware si chairman. Pero ang mas maganda is kung documented at yan yung policy choice natin na we are not choosing to be at par with national sa third level.
Yeah, you can.
Mr. Chairman, may I be recognized? Mr.
And
Chair.
we will allow MP, the Deputy Minister to answer briefly before we recognize MP Maisara.
Yes, during the face-to-face dialogue, there was a recording of that, but I don't know if the Secretariat was able to keep safe properly the record. All the proceedings there were recorded, documented. It's now in the Secretariat. Then I heard about this decision of the Supreme Court. What I know is on the issue of superintendent, the division school superintendent, there is already a decision of the Supreme Court requiring the position is third level eligibility. But that is only exclusive for superintendent.
Schools?
Yes, schools division superintendent.
So, we will leave that at that. Ang question ngayon is may papel ba? Yeah. We will hear from Attorney Alba.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning. The facilitative discussion or dialogue in the Civil Service Commission Central Office touched a lot of things that we felt were, yes, of course, sana po nakalagay siya in writing. However, the issues that we brought up and resolved verbally or orally by both the chair, si Chair Bala and Commissioner Lizada, hindi na nilagay in writing. Ang sinabi na lang nila, those issues that were left unresolved, if you could put it in an omnibus request. And that is why yung omnibus request ay konti na lang because the others ay na-resolve na verbally. As to the existence of the Supreme Court jurisprudence, tama po si Deputy Minister Abbas. In fact, it was from Ronquillo, Assistant Commissioner Ariel Ronquillo, that mentioned that the Supreme Court jurisprudence only applies to that particular case but not to the rest. And the chair
Chairperson Bala said that the constitutional provision about presidential appointees being the ones that require third level, ay sabi nila, since that is not applicable in the BARM, we can choose not to. Correct po si MP Rasmit Mog that it's a choice. If we would like to adopt it or not, we leave it up to the parliament to decide on that. But I believe that we will not be shortchanged din naman kasi sa proseso po ng pagdadagdag ng eligibility requirements, that can be done administratively.
Progressive.
Yes, meaning we can propose from some items or positions to have higher eligibility requirements subject to the approval of the Civil Service Commission, which is just an administrative process. Pwede pa rin natin yun gawain. Pero for purposes na hindi rin naman po tayo mabind ng third level eligibility, sana we can consider na to do away with it because we are not violating any policy or rules naman po about it.
I think that's the answer for now. These questions are actually requiring the sense of the parliament on this matter. It is the parliament, including the cabinet, the government of the day, who determines the future of the bureaucracy. So pwedeng pag-usapan yan sa, actually, I can say, pwedeng pag-usapan yan sa plenary. Now, another question.
Mr. Speaker,
Yeah, MP Maysara.
in relation to the Supreme Court ruling on the power of the Bangsamoro government to lay down the qualifications and requirements, it was actually upheld by the Supreme Court in the decision. So there is no legal impediment for the Bangsamoro government to provide in its qualification framework that CESO eligibility is no longer required for third level positions. And that is clear in the import of the Supreme Court decision. So I believe that what the chairman of the Civil Service Commission has manifested during their meeting is legally correct, and it is supported by the Supreme Court. So there is no prohibition or legal impediment in the Civil Service Code to provide that the civil service eligibility, CESO eligibility for third level position is no longer required.
Yeah, thank you, MP Maysara, for the clarification. So, another question that was raised in the chat group, itong comment or question ni May Intan, sinabi niya, is it good for us na walang CESO? Or does it make us inferior over other civil servants in other regions? I can answer this na lang, no? It's the sense of the parliament. This will require decision of the parliament on this matter. Yeah. Second, another question from MP Susana Nayatin. How do we define, sa issue number 13, how do we define the mujahideen as used in the Bangsamoro Civil Service Code? Saan yung kay Ras?
Mr. Chair.
Dali. Yeah. Hindi man to kailan. Hindi na to kailangan sagutin mo.
Mr. Chair.
Mayroon pa pala question si MP Rasmit Mog. Sabi niya, pwede bang i-assess, assess or access yung CSC documents and letters for crafting the code? MP Aida.
Yes, we can have them collated and provide you copies later.
Dito ka kukuha. Mamaya.
Now, we go back to the question of MP Susana Anayatin on issue number 13. How do we define mujahideen as used in the Bangsamoro Civil Service Code? If
Mr.
you
Chair.
can... Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I would like to be clarified on the term mujahideen. Will it involve the combatants, their families, their children? Up to what degree?
Ma'am, wala hong... you can look at line 20 in page 4. Nandiyan na ho yung answer sa question nyo. If I am reading this right, I mean, if there is no reference to families of the combatants.
No reference?
Yeah. May I be allowed to read this, ma'am? Para maano mo, hindi mo nahanapin.
Okay,
It's
thank
in
you.
line,
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
in line 20, page 4 of the draft code. Mujahideen refers to the legitimate members, men, nauna pa hong babae dito women and men of the Moro Islamic Liberation Front and the Moro National Liberation Front, duly certified by the chairman of their respective central committees.
So, Mr. Chair, can we not include their immediate families in the definition?
Hindi na ho siguro yan, ma'am. Bahala na ang kwan. No, I think it's a good discussion, but it will require the sense of the parliament again, because we are expanding something na we see very delicate provision. Yeah.
Sir Chair. Okay,
Sir Chair.
thank you, Mr. Chair.
And
Sir Chair.
yes, MP Mawalil o
MP Mitmog, Sir Chair. Try ko lang may video. Yan na, Sir Chair. Sir Chair, may query lang ako kasi di ba certified by, would that be a list certified by? Ibig sabihin, meron ng initial list na submit sa Bangsamoro government or paisa-isa yung pagbigay ng list?
Roster of combatants.
That would be an issue of appointment. On the basis of this provision, ito, sense ko lang, this is not the sense of the technical working group, but I know this is they would...
pero yun yung nire-raise kong issue for the committee. Would that be paisa-isa na i-certify ko si ganito, or lahat ng combatants so that they will be afforded the opportunity, meron kang long list of certified people?
Yeah,
So
I will give that to MP Aida Silongan.
Yeah. May I answer, Impiras?
Yes, ma'am.
During the transition period, it shall be the responsibility of the Central Committee of the MILF and the MNLF to determine the Mujahideen in the roster of their organic members who shall be considered for hiring under this provision. The hiring should be within the transition period only.
So they will be providing, ma'am, a list already or paisa-isa?
Isa-isa.
Paisa-isa.
Yung mag-apply lang, hindi naman lahat mag-a-apply.
Kasi
Members, MLF at saka MLF, kunin mo yung roster tapos ilan lang yung mag-a-apply, hindi naman lahat mag-a-apply.
Profiling ka pa.
Yes, ma'am. Kasi ang pagka-word kasi dyan, ma'am, is may assessment na kung sino yung pwede mag-apply. So, based dun sa list, ito na yung mga tao na pwede mag-apply, i-submit, tapos yun yung pwede mag-apply. So, ibig sabihin sila yung may certification. Pero, siguro, depende sa appreciation. Yun lang yung pag-appreciate ko ng document. Kasi ang goal natin is, kung gusto natin matulungan, then yung maximum po na pwede natin mabigay. So, ibig sabihin, pagka nakasama na sila sa list, pwede na sila mag-apply. So, hindi sila pa isa-isa. So, ibig sabihin, meron ng processing na nauna. Kasi yun din yung tenor nung provision. Yun lang yung pagkaintindi ko. Kaya po tinatanong just to be clarified. Salamat po.
Anyway, maganda yung suggestion mo and we take note of that, MP Ras Mitmog.
Chair, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman.
MP Bayintan, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have no objection with prioritizing the Mujahideen. After all, sila naman talaga yung naghirap dito sa pagtamo natin ng kapayapaan ngayon. However, siguro hindi ako abogado, pero alam natin na may sinasabing class legislation. Pag definite na sinabi mong nandyan sa batas ng specific sector, baka yan ay magiging cause ng unconstitutionality ng ating civil service code. I would like to ask the opinion of the lawyers.
So, my lawyer.
MP Omar, lawyer. MP Omar.
Can we please allow MP Aida to answer first the query of MP Bayintan? Then I will recognize MP Tago. Yeah, inaano ko para ma-close yan.
Okay, let me ask Attorney Lai to answer that question.
Attorney Lai, you are recognized to answer.
Thank you, Presiding Chair and Ma'am Aida. In recognition of the sacrifices in the struggle for the right to self-determination, the term Mujahideen was also appreciated by the Civil Service Commission during the dialogue in Manila. Legally, class legislation principle does not apply because it pertains only to certain groups of persons. Class legislation discriminating against some and favoring others is prohibited, but classification on a reasonable basis and to be made arbitrarily or capriciously is permitted. The rules governing classification are briefly as follows. The classification must be based on substantial distinctions which make real differences. It must be germane to the purposes of the law. It must not be limited to existing conditions only and must apply equally to each member of the class. This is from the Philippine Constitutional Law Book of Malcolm, second edition, page 343. Similarly, the classification of Mujahideen has reasonable basis because it is based on substantial distinction with other classes of people which make real differences. So our position and the legal theory is that this is allowable. And the same is recognized by the Civil Service Commission itself. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, just a follow-up question.
Yes, MP Bayintan.
Yeah, in relation doon sa sinabi ni MP Susan kanina, because we do recognize that our Mujahideens are already in their latest stage of their lives. So baka kasi yung qualification ng civil service na age limit, ang mangyayari yan, magsaserve ng 1 year, then retire na. So maybe we need to look at the definition to include yung immediate siblings nila, immediate family nila na makakwalify. Because if we stick on the Mujahideen, baka mga senior citizens na lahat, no? So that's my one of my
MP Bayintan, I think that would be decided by the Parliament. We will need the sense of the Parliament on that matter.
I'm just raising because we are discussing the issue, so please take note.
Yeah, we are taking notes of your proposal. We know our intent is to maximize the opportunity of the Mujahideen, be it with them or their families. And ang magde-decide ho dyan, yung BTA ang magde-decide dyan. Now, I recognize already, I'm sorry, MP Eddie Ali, I know you are raising your hands. I see you in the screen. But I recognized a while ago MP Popoy Tago. Then it will be followed by you. MP Tago, you are recognized.
Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum, Mr. Chairman. As pointed out earlier by Attorney Alba of our Attorney General, there is no violation of the equal protection clause of our Constitution because it was stated in the transitory provision and it will apply in a limited period. Secondly, this is an exception of the equal protection clause of the Constitution because the situation of the Mujahideen is a special case. Because we have the Philippine government has made what we call this negotiation agreement with the MILF or the rebel or MNLF, and they have given them special attention. That is giving them special attention. And if I'm not mistaken, na-apply yan sa Irish. It was applied to the Irish Republican Army na mayroon din special provision giving them special privilege in the government. So I don't think sa akin pananaw, there is no violation because of the statements specified a while ago by Attorney Alba. Yun lang sa akin.
Mr. Chair.
Tago, your point will be take note. We will take note of your point in support of.
Thank you very much.
May question lang ako. Yung educational requirements hindi na waive ha. Yung eligibility lang. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Mr. Chair.
So MP Eddie Ali.
Mr. Chair.
Followed by
Mr. Chair, sabihin ko lang, sa salary grade 9 below, wala naman yatang eligibility. Pagkalang ko, walang eligibility. First level, walang eligibility requirements. Educational qualification requirements lang yata.
We will, that would be another matter na lang. But we will take note of that. MP Eddie Ali, you're recognized, followed by MP Zia Adyong.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, assalamualaikum. Meron lang po ako, Mr. Chair, i-clarify kay Ma'am MP Aida Silongan. Ma'am MP Aida.
Yes, sir. Good morning. Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. Ma'am Aida, you were mentioning earlier yung mujahideen, yung mga mujahideen natin, certification lang ba galing sa MILF Central Committee at MNLF Central Committee. Ang clarification ko, Ma'am Aida, dito sa MNLF, are you referring to yung Executive Committee of 15 ng MNLF or kasama po doon ang Miswari Wing po? Yun lang po.
Ejikiri ba? Yeah, we can. Basta MNLF sabi mo.
Yeah, siguro, sir, we will refer that to the leadership of the cabinet. Yeah, kung ano ang sense nila dyan sa
Okay.
other
Yeah. I understand, Ma'am Aida, no? Again, ang gusto ko lang i-point po, since yung Bangsamoro government natin is being inclusive, no? Gusto natin na yung lahat ay makakasama sa gobyerno natin. Kaya nga I made that clarification. Hopefully, Ma'am Aida, this will be taken up by the cabinet at saka siguro maganda rin po, Ma'am Aida, kung lahat po ng MNLF naman para at least everybody will feel that they are part of this government. Maraming salamat po, Ma'am Aida.
Yes, sir. Sa tingin ko naman, ang leadership naman is inclusive, pero ayaw ko lang pangunahan. Let's give,
Yeah.
ano.
Okay, thank you, Ma'am Aida. Thank you talaga. Thank you.
Alam mo rin yan.
Thank you for raising that question, MP Eddie Ali. Thank you for raising that question. That should be clarified. I believe the leadership will be inclusive in their sense.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
MP Adyong, you are recognized, followed by MP Jam Ramos.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just an additional input, I guess, on provision 13. Currently, what we're discussing right now, yung mga mujahideen, I would also like to perhaps to as an additional input that we need also to cover, no, kasi pag sinabi nating mujahideen, we also need to cover the old yung mga inactive members. Perhaps this is way of for the committee and perhaps for the plenary to contemplate on. We should also remember that there are also mujahideen who are inactive right now, but still part of the organization of the liberation movement. Though they are not an active combatants, I presume that's the definition, no, of the mujahideen, the active combatants. So though they are no longer an active combatants, but they are still part of the liberation movement, of these two Moro movements. So we need also to contemplate on that once we arrive on the decision ng Parliament. Number two, Mr. Chair, is the committee also needs to perhaps in detail, no? Kasi ang salary grade 9, it covers clerical position, it also covers technical. Some technical, no, bookkeeper, may mga clerical. So you also need to weigh in, no? Kasi what we are trying to lay down here is the criteria. We are trying to appreciate the skills, no? The skills of possibly the potential manpower of the bureaucracy of the BARM. So by setting up the salary grade into 9, we are also looking at the skills, no? Kasi bookkeeper, may mga clerical, may mga technical people na part and cover ng salary grade 9. And nakikita ko lang, Mr. Chair, kasi sinabi po ni Ma'am Kaka Aida, this is perhaps a sunset clause. It would only be effective during the duration of the transition period. So that's the thing that we need to consider. Na it is just a sunset clause. This will only be effective up until the transition period. And I think that's the bulk of the issue that the Parliament or the committee should entertain and should decide on. Kasi kung if it's a sunset clause, a sunset provision, then perhaps we can give in to the idea of providing some sort of assistance to the combatants and to the people who have served these two Moro liberation movements, Mr. Chair. Just an additional input, Mr. Chair, that I think the committee should look into. Thank you.
Nakikita niyo ma-extend? Yeah. Thank you. That's MPZ for MP Maisara, please let me.
Yes, in due respect to MP Zia, I believe that this is part of the normalization clause. If you check the Bangsamoro Organic Law, there is a provision there for normalization of combatants that it will continue beyond the transition period. So this clause that we are going to put in for the Mujahideen is in fact a fulfillment of that obligation for normalization of our combatants. So I believe that it should not have a sunset clause. Because how can you normalize a particular group of people for such a short period of time? They have been fighting for decades. So we have to normalize them also in the same manner. So I do not believe that the sunset clause will serve the purpose of normalization under the Bangsamoro Organic Law as well as the comprehensive agreement on the Bangsamoro.
Mr. Chair, may I respond to that, Mr. Chair, because that's a direct response to my manifestation. Before the Chair makes his own manifestation, Mr. Chair.
Yeah. But
Yes.
that would be the last, unless MP Jams will be raising that same question. I
It's
will.
not the same question, Mr. Chair. It's not the
Parehas
same question.
related yan.
Hindi po. Hindi po.
So that would be the last manifestation coming from on that subject matter kay MB Zia.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I do agree with the the observation of MP Maysara that there is in fact a normalization component in the Bangsamoro Organic Law. What I just stated earlier, Mr. Chair, is the explanation of MP Aida Silungan when he was asked by MP Rasul Mitmag. If you go back to if you go back to kung meron pong nagte-take down notes diyan, ang sinabi po